There's something they don't tell you about getting older. It's not what you'd expect. It's not about slowing down or forgetting where you put your keys or needing reading glasses. It's about something deeper, something that changes everything. I want to share what I've learned, not from books or experts, but from living, from watching the years pass, from paying attention. You know, I was at the doctor's office not long ago and he measured my height. Nothing unusual about that. But then he looked at me with this gentle expression and said I'd lost 2 inches since my last physical. 2 inches. And my first thought was, that's impossible. That can't be right. But it was right. It is right. Our bodies tell the truth, whether we're ready to hear it or not. And I started thinking about all the other things I've lost, not just height. My waistline disappeared years ago. Things have shifted, softened, settled in ways I never imagined when I was 40 or even 50. The mirror shows someone I'm still getting to know, someone who looks a bit like my father did, a bit like my mother, a bit like a stranger. For a long time I fought it. I looked at old photographs and mourned what was gone, the strong shoulders, the flat stomach, the face without lines. I'd stand there in the bathroom looking at myself, seeing all the ways time had marked me, and I felt, I don't know, defeated maybe, like I was losing some battle I never signed up to fight. But somewhere along the way, something shifted inside me too. Not resignation, something gentler than that. Acceptance, maybe, or recognition that this body has carried me through every moment of my life, and it's still here, still working, still breathing, still allowing me to experience the world, to taste coffee in the morning, to feel the sun on my face, to hug someone I love. This isn't puberty in reverse, you know. It's something else entirely. A crossing over, a threshold we weren't quite prepared for, even though we knew it was coming. When we were young, we went through puberty, and everyone talked about it. There were books, conversations, preparation. But this transition into older age, nobody really tells you how to navigate it. Nobody warns you about the emotional terrain. I've started calling it the coming of aging in my own mind. Like coming of age, but for this phase. Because it is a phase, a significant one. Maybe the most significant one since we became adults. It's a transition out of the struggle of midlife, out of all that striving and building and proving, and into something quieter, something we don't quite have words for yet. There's a mourning that happens, a real grief, not just for the physical changes, though those are real, but for all the roads not taken, all the dreams that won't come true now, all the versions of ourselves we'll never become. When you're young, you have this sense of infinite possibility. You could become anything, do anything, go anywhere. The future is wide open. But at a certain point you realize the future is no longer endless. The path's narrow. Choices have been made, and those choices have consequences. You are who you are now. This is the life you have, and there's a bittersweetness in that realization that can catch you off guard on ordinary afternoons. I've been thinking a lot about this lately, about acceptance, about what it means to truly accept your life as it is, not as you wished it would be, not as you planned it, not as you see it in other people's lives when you scroll through social media or talk to old friends, but as it actually is, right here, right now. And I've realized something. Acceptance isn't defeat. It's not giving up. It's actually the opposite. It's finally being honest enough to see clearly, to stop arguing with reality, to stop exhausting yourself wishing things were different. There comes a moment, maybe you've had it too, when you stop looking forward and start looking back, really looking back. Not with nostalgia, though there's some of that. Not with pride in your accomplishments, though those are there too. No, I mean the other kind of looking back. The kind where you see clearly, perhaps for the first time, the full picture of who you've been. Not just the highlight reel, the whole story. I went through this recently, a real reckoning. I sat down, intending to reflect on my life, to appreciate all the good things I'd done, all the accomplishments, all the meaningful moments, and I did see those things. They were there and they were real. But then something unexpected happened. As I looked at all that good stuff, I started to see cracks in the story, shadows behind the light, things I'd been avoiding for years, maybe decades. And instead of doing what I'd always done before, instead of going numb and waiting for the discomfort to pass, I stayed with it this time. I didn't choose to, really. It wasn't a conscious decision. It was more like my soul took over, like some deeper part of me knew it was time to look at what I'd been avoiding. What I saw wasn't easy. I saw the impact of my behavior on other people, real people, people I'd loved, people I'd worked with, people I'd passed through life with, and I saw how I'd hurt them without even realizing it. How I'd been so focused on my own journey, my own needs, my own story, that I hadn't been paying attention to the small feelings of others, the little moments where I'd been thoughtless, or careless, or just absent when someone needed me to be present. It was devastating, honestly. Like being someone who finally sobers up and realizes all the damage they caused while they were drinking, all the people they hurt while they were convinced they were just having fun, just living their life. I hadn't been a bad person, not intentionally. I'd never set out to cause harm. But that didn't matter, did it? The harm was still there. The pain was still real. And the worst part was realizing that the pain I'd caused was often worse than I'd imagined. Much worse. I'd minimized it in my mind, told myself it wasn't a big deal, convinced myself that people had moved on or forgotten or that it hadn't really mattered that much. But it did matter. It mattered a great deal. So I started reaching out, writing letters, making phone calls, having difficult conversations, saying the words I'd been avoiding for years. I'm sorry. I was wrong. I hurt you, and I see that now. Not easy words, not comfortable words, words that cost me something, words that required me to let go of my own self-image, my own narrative about being a good person who meant well. Some of those conversations went well. People were gracious, forgiving, sometimes even grateful that I'd acknowledged what happened. Some conversations were harder. Some people weren't ready to forgive, or didn't want to revisit the past, or were still carrying pain that my apology couldn't heal. And that was hard to sit with. The knowledge that I couldn't fix everything, that some damage is permanent. But you know what I learned through all of this? That claiming the events of your life, the real events, not the sanitized version you tell yourself, is what makes you real. It's what makes you whole. One of my old teachers used to say, "Go to the most painful place, because that's where the truth is." And he was right. We all have a shadow side. All of us. It's where we stuff everything we're not willing to look at. The petty thoughts, the jealousies, the times we were cruel or cowardly, the lies we told, even small ones, the people we betrayed or abandoned or simply forgot about. We push all of that down into the darkness because we can't bear to see it. Because we want to believe we're good people, because we're afraid of what it means if we're not. But here's the thing about shadows. They don't disappear just because you ignore them. They don't fade away. They stay with you, hidden but still exerting force on your life, still shaping your choices, still causing you to react in ways you don't understand, until you finally turn around and look at them, until you shine a light into that darkness and say, "Okay, I see you. This is also part of me." That's shadow work, and it's some of the most important work we can do in these later years. Not building anymore, not climbing, but clearing, settling accounts, making peace with ourselves, with others, with the life we've actually lived, not the life we wish we'd lived. I'm grateful now that I have more years ahead of me. I don't know how many. 10, maybe. 15, if I'm lucky. 20, if I'm very lucky. But however many I have, I'm grateful I can live them beyond that old constraint. Beyond the barrier reef of my identities and attachments. Beyond the need to protect some image of myself. Because when you're really attached to yourself, to this idea of who you are, things are excruciatingly painful. Every criticism feels like an attack. Every failure feels like proof that you're not who you thought you were. Every sign of aging feels like a loss of value, of worth. You spend so much energy defending this fragile sense of self, maintaining the image, keeping up appearances. But when you're less attached to all that, when you let go even a little bit, something remarkable happens. You get lighter, freer. You can be amazed by things again. You can laugh at yourself. You can admit when you're wrong without it feeling like the end of the world. You can watch your hair turn grey or your body slow down without it being a tragedy. You can just be. Just exist. Just experience this moment without constantly comparing it to other moments, or judging it, or wishing it were different. I have a friend who collects poems. Short ones, fragments really. She writes them on cards and keeps them in a deck, and every morning she pulls one out and reads it. Just a moment of beauty or wisdom to start the day. I've started doing the same thing. It's become a ritual I look forward to. This morning I pulled one that stopped me in my tracks. It was called Sono's Death Poem, and it said something like this. Don't just stand there with your hair turning grey. Soon enough the sea will sink your little island. So while there is still the illusion of time, set out for another shore. No sense packing a bag. You won't be able to lift it into your boat. Give away all your collections, take only new seeds and an old stick, send out some prayers on the wind before you sail. Don't be afraid. Someone knows you're coming. An extra fish has been salted. Isn't that beautiful? Don't just stand there with your hair turning grey. It's a challenge, really. A call to keep living, even now, even as we age, even as we approach the end. To not just wait for death, but to move toward it with intention, with freshness, with curiosity about what lies on that other shore. I don't have any theories yet about what happens after we die. I used to think I needed theories. I used to think I needed to believe something specific, to have it all figured out. Heaven or reincarnation or oblivion or something else entirely. But I don't anymore. I'm comfortable not knowing. Comfortable with the mystery of it. What I do know is that death is a doorway, a threshold. Not an ending exactly, but a transition. Maybe the last experience of your life is also the most profound experience of your lifetime. Maybe in that final moment something opens up that we can't imagine from this side. Or maybe not. Maybe it's just quiet, rest, a return to wherever we came from. Either way, I'm less afraid of it than I used to be. Not because I want it to come. I don't. I love this life, even with all its difficulties. But because I'm starting to see it as a natural part of the cycle. Part of being human, part of being alive. I've made some practical preparations. I have a green burial plot in the cemetery up on the hill from my house. I want to be buried in a shroud, not a casket. I probably need to make that shroud myself so my friends don't have to worry about it when the time comes. And I want to go into the earth directly. No vault, no embalming, just this body returning to the soil. There's something deeply satisfying about that image. About becoming part of the earth again, about nourishing the trees and grass and flowers with what's left of me. The cemetery is uphill from my garden, and I like to joke that all my cells will wash back down into my garden with the rain, feeding the tomatoes and herbs and flowers I love. It's light-hearted, but it's also true. That is what will happen. This flesh will leave these bones, and these bones will rest in the earth, and all of it will transform into something else. Because that's what this body is, really. A loan, a temporary arrangement. These atoms and molecules came from the earth, from stardust, from ancient stars that died billions of years ago. They came together in this particular configuration for this particular lifetime. And when I'm done with them, they'll go on to be something else. Part of a tree, maybe. Part of the rain. Part of someone else's breath. We don't like to think about it that way. We want to believe we're permanent, solid, separate from nature, but we're not. We never were. We're just part of the great cycling of matter and energy that's been going on for billions of years and will continue long after we're gone. And you know what? We're going to be forgotten. That's just the truth of it. Give it a generation or two and we're gone from the imagination of the living. Our great-grandchildren might remember our names, might have a vague sense of who we were, but their children? Probably not. We'll just be old photographs in a box, faces without stories, names without meaning. There are billions of us who live and die. Billions. All with our own dramas, our own loves and losses, our own moments of triumph and despair. All convinced, in the moment, that our lives are uniquely important, uniquely meaningful. And they are, in a way. But they're also just one brief flash in an endless river of human experience. I used to find that depressing. The idea that I'd be forgotten, that my life would ultimately not matter in the grand scheme of things. I used to want to leave a mark, a legacy, something that would last. I thought about what I'd want on my tombstone. I even picked out a quote from Helen Keller. Life is either a great adventure or it's nothing. Something bold and inspiring that would make people walking by think, yeah, that person lived. But lately I'm not so sure that matters. Lately I'm getting okay with being part of the multitude. Part of the endless stream of human beings who've passed through this world, loved it, suffered in it, found moments of joy and meaning and then returned to dust. What an amazing blink that I get to be alive at all. What an extraordinary accident of timing and biology and chance that I exist. That I got to see sunrises and taste strawberries and hear music and hold someone's hand and feel love and heartbreak and wonder and boredom and everything else that makes up a human life. That seems like enough now. More than enough. I don't need to be remembered. I don't need to be special. I just need to be here, fully here, for whatever time I have left, to pay attention, to be present, to love the people in my life while they're still here, to notice the small beauties, to do less harm, to make what amends I can, to let go of the heavy baggage I've been carrying. The poem said it. No sense packing a bag. You won't be able to lift it into your boat. Give away all your collections, take only new seeds and an old stick. I've been thinking about what that means, about what I'm still holding on to that I don't need, what collections I've been maintaining that just weigh me down, old grudges, old stories about myself, old disappointments, old regrets, old identifications with roles I no longer play, old needs for approval or recognition or control. What if I just let go of all that? What if I travelled lighter? What would that feel like? I think it would feel like freedom, like space, like being able to take a full breath for the first time in years. I had a moment recently where I felt it, just for a second. I was sitting in my garden in the late afternoon, watching the light change, and I suddenly realised I wasn't thinking about anything. I wasn't worrying about the future or replaying the past. I wasn't judging myself or planning or analysing. I was just there, just present, just aware of the warmth of the sun and the sound of birds and the smell of the earth. And in that moment I felt completely content, completely at peace, not because my life was perfect or because I'd achieved anything or because I'd figured anything out, but because I was simply there, alive, experiencing it, and that was enough. That's what I want more of, that presence, that simplicity, that ability to be with what is without needing it to be different. It's not easy. My mind wants to wander, wants to worry, wants to replay old conversations and imagine future scenarios and judge and compare and analyse. That's what minds do. But I'm learning to notice when it happens, to gently bring myself back, to return to this moment, this breath, this sensation, this experience. Because this moment is all we ever have, really. The past is gone. It only exists in memory, and memory is unreliable, constantly being rewritten and reinterpreted. The future hasn't happened yet. It only exists in imagination, and imagination is often wrong. This moment right now is the only thing that's real, the only place where life actually happens, and if I can be here, really here, then even the difficult moments become bearable. Even the pain and fear and uncertainty become part of the richness of being alive. Even the aging and the loss and the approaching end become part of the adventure. I think about the people I've known who died well, who faced death with grace and courage and even curiosity. They weren't special people. They weren't saints or sages. They were ordinary people like you and me who somehow found a way to meet that final threshold with openness rather than resistance. I remember my neighbour, an older man who lived down the street. He'd been sick for a while, and everyone knew he didn't have much time left. I went to visit him one afternoon, expecting it to be heavy and sad, and it was sad in a way, but it was also surprisingly light. He was lying in his bed by the window, looking out at the trees, and he seemed so peaceful, so present. We talked for a while about ordinary things, the weather, the birds, his garden which his daughter was maintaining for him, and then he said something I'll never forget. He said, "You know, I thought I'd be more afraid, but mostly I just feel curious, like I'm about to go on a trip to somewhere I've never been." That struck me. The curiosity, the openness, the lack of panic or denial. He wasn't pretending he wasn't dying. He wasn't fighting it or raging against it. He was just allowing it, meeting it with a kind of gentle interest. He died a few weeks later, quietly, with his family around him, and at his memorial service his daughter said he'd been peaceful right up to the end, present, aware, not suffering, just gradually letting go. That's what I want, not the dying, necessarily, but that quality of presence, that ability to meet what comes without resistance, to say yes to life, all of it, even the parts that are hard or frightening or painful. Because resistance is exhausting. Fighting reality is exhausting. Wishing things were different than they are is exhausting. And at a certain point, you realize you don't have unlimited energy anymore. You have to choose how to spend what you have left, and spending it in resistance, in denial, in wishful thinking, that seems like a waste. Better to spend it in appreciation, in presence, in love, in connection, in simple awareness of being alive. I've been practicing this, not perfectly, not consistently, but practicing. When I notice myself getting caught up in worry or regret, I try to pause, take a breath, come back to my body, to this moment. What do I actually feel right now? What do I actually see and hear and sense? Not my thoughts about it, but the direct experience of it. Often, when I do this, I realize that right now, in this moment, I'm okay. I might not be okay in my imagination of the future. I might not be okay in my memory of the past, but right now, in this actual moment, I'm breathing. I'm here, I'm alive. And that's something. This practice has changed how I experience my days. Small moments that I used to rush through now have weight and meaning. My morning coffee, the way the light comes through the window, a conversation with a friend, the feeling of water when I wash my hands. These aren't just mundane activities to get through on the way to something more important. They are the substance of life. They are what life actually is. We spend so much time waiting for the big moments, the achievements, the milestones, the special occasions. But life isn't lived in those moments. Life is lived in the ordinary ones, in the space between the events, in the quiet afternoons and the regular routines and the simple pleasures that we barely notice because we're too busy looking ahead to what's next. What if there is no next that's more important than now? What if now is it? What if this is the good part? When you're young, you're always reaching for the next thing. The next grade, the next job, the next relationship, the next achievement. Always climbing towards some imagined future where you'll finally be happy, finally be satisfied, finally be enough. But that future never quite arrives, does it? There's always another mountain to climb, another goal to reach, another thing you think you need before you can relax and be content. But now, at this age, there aren't as many mountains left to climb. The ladder doesn't go up much further. And that's okay. That's actually a gift. Because it means you can finally stop climbing and just be where you are. You can finally say, this is my life. This is what I have. And it's enough. Not perfect. Not what you planned. Not what you see in other people's lives or in magazines or on television. But enough. Real. Yours. There's a profound peace in that acceptance. A kind of coming home to yourself. To your actual life. Not the life you thought you were supposed to have. To your actual body, not the body you wish you had. To your actual history, not the sanitized version you tell at parties. This is me. This is who I've been. This is who I am. The good and the bad, the light and the shadow, the achievements and the failures, the kindness and the cruelty. All of it. This is my life. And from that place of acceptance, something else becomes possible. Not improvement exactly. Not self-help or self-optimization or becoming a better version of yourself. But something simpler and more profound. Just being fully yourself, just showing up as you are, just allowing your life to be what it is. I think that's what we're really looking for in these later years. Not success or recognition or achievement. We've had our share of those things, or we haven't, and either way, we're learning they don't bring the satisfaction we thought they would. What we're looking for is peace, acceptance, the ability to be comfortable in our own skin, the ability to face what's coming without terror. And we find that not by adding more to our lives, but by subtracting, by letting go, by releasing our grip on how things should be and allowing them to be as they are, by making peace with our past, by accepting our present, by opening to our future whatever it holds. This is the work of aging, the real work, not keeping up appearances or staying busy or proving we're still relevant, but the deep inner work of acceptance, forgiveness, letting go. The work of becoming who we actually are underneath all the roles and identities and stories. It's not easy work. It requires honesty that can be painful. It requires facing things we'd rather avoid. It requires admitting we were wrong, that we caused harm, that we're not the person we thought we were. It requires sitting with uncomfortable feelings instead of distracting ourselves. It requires being vulnerable in ways that feel risky. But it's also freeing work. Because every time you let go of something you've been carrying, you get lighter. Every time you tell the truth, you get freer. Every time you stop pretending, you get to rest. And rest is what we need now. Not the rest of sleep, though that's important too. But the rest of no longer having to prove anything. The rest of no longer having to maintain an image. The rest of finally being able to be ourselves fully and completely without apology. I see this in people who've done this work. There's a quality to them that's hard to describe. A groundedness, a peace. They're comfortable with silence. They don't need to fill every space with words or activity. They can just be. And being around them feels calming, like standing near a deep, still lake. That's what I'm working toward. That quality, that presence, that peace. Not there yet. Still working on it. Still catching myself in old patterns, still getting caught up in worry or judgment or regret. But noticing more, coming back more quickly, being gentle with myself when I stray, which I do often. Because that's part of it too, the self-compassion, the ability to see your own struggles and failures and limitations with kindness instead of judgment. To treat yourself the way you'd treat a good friend who is going through something difficult. We're so hard on ourselves, so critical. We have these impossible standards that we'd never apply to anyone else. We beat ourselves up for not being perfect, for not having it all figured out, for making mistakes. And that self-criticism is exhausting. It's another weight we carry that we don't need. What if we could just be kind to ourselves? What if we could look at our aging bodies, our fading memories, our mistakes and regrets and limitations with gentleness, with understanding? What if we could say, of course this is hard, of course I'm struggling, this is difficult terrain, but I'm doing my best, and that's enough. That might be the most radical act of these later years, not achieving something or proving something, but simply being kind to ourselves, simply allowing ourselves to be human, with all that entails, simply accepting that we're flawed and limited and mortal, and that's okay. That's what every human being is. You know, there's a story I heard once about a Buddhist teacher who was asked what enlightenment was like, and he said something like, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. The activities are the same. Life is still life. You still have to do the ordinary tasks, face the ordinary challenges. But something in how you experience it has shifted. You're more present, more accepting, more at peace. I think about that sometimes, about how the external circumstances of my life haven't changed that much, but my relationship to them has. I'm still the same person, living the same life, but something has shifted in how I meet it. Something has softened, something has opened, and I want to keep moving in that direction, keep softening, keep opening, keep letting go of what I don't need, keep returning to presence, to this moment, to what is, because that's where peace lives. Not in the future when things are different, not in the past when things were better, but here, now, in this imperfect, ordinary, fleeting moment, this moment that's already passing, already becoming memory, already gone. But the next moment arrives, and the next, and the next. An endless stream of moments, each one an opportunity to be present, to be aware, to be alive. What an extraordinary gift, what a strange and beautiful adventure, to be conscious, to be aware, to have this brief window of existence where we get to experience the world, to see colour and hear sound and taste flavour and feel texture and love and hurt and wonder and grieve and laugh and cry and all of it. All of it. Soon enough it will be over, soon enough we'll return to wherever we came from, to that vast silence before birth, that deep rest, but not yet, not quite yet. Right now we're still here, still alive, still experiencing this remarkable phenomenon of being human. So don't just stand there with your hair turning grey, as the poem says. Keep living, keep opening, keep discovering, keep letting go, keep making peace, keep loving what can be loved, keep being curious about what's coming next. Send out some prayers on the wind before you sail. Don't be afraid. Someone knows you're coming. An extra fish has been salted. The shore is waiting. But there's no rush. Take your time. Notice the journey. Feel the water beneath the boat. Watch the sky change. Breathe the air. Be here, fully here, for as long as you have. This is it. This is the great adventure. Not somewhere else, not sometime else. Right here, right now, this aging body, this imperfect life, this moment of awareness in an infinite universe. What an amazing blink that we get to be alive. So take a moment now. Breathe. Let these thoughts settle. You're exactly where you need to be. This moment, with all its imperfections, with all its uncertainties, is enough. You are enough. May you find peace in accepting what is. May you continue to discover who you truly are beneath all the roles and stories. May you keep opening, keep softening, keep letting go of what weighs you down. This is the journey, this brief, beautiful, impossible adventure of being human.